правительства Малайзии мы только что провели короткую, но очень содержательную беседу, в том числе говорили о перспективах нашего сотрудничества по линии образования и научных разработок. И премьер-министр при нас дал соответствующие поручения своим министрам, которые занимаются теми или иными вопросами относительно содействия такого рода сотрудничеству. Мы за это сердечно благодарны и уверены, что ваш визит станет очень мощным импульсом в развитии наших отношений с малазийскими центрами. Ну, а вообще ваш визит, и об этом уже открыто все говорят, все комментаторы, станет, конечно, очень важной вехой в деле развития отношений между Российской Федерацией и Малайзией. Ваши вчерашние переговоры с Путиным были, как отмечают все, исключительно содержательными, плодотворными и нацеленными на то, чтобы наше сотрудничество развивалось по восходящей. Я хочу сказать, что для нас сотрудничество с Малайзией всегда имело особый характер. И с Малайзией, и со странами АСЕАН. Я очень рад видеть сегодня в зале послов стран АСЕАНа, бывают нашими частыми гостями, принимают участие и в работе нашего центра АСЕАН, и в проведении дней стран АСЕАН здесь, в МГИМО. Это всегда очень такие важные события, в которых принимают участие сотни и сотни наших студентов. Что касается наших отношений с Малайзией, то мы имели честь принимать здесь руководителей Малайзии не раз, с выступлениями перед студентами. Но я хотел бы особо отметить то обстоятельство, что именно в этом году, в год, когда к нам приехал премьер-министр, мы восстановили преподавание малайского языка в МГИМО. И теперь у нас все языки стран АСЕАН преподаются в нашем университете, и, как мне кажется, это само по себе очень важное свидетельство того, какое внимание проявляет и руководство страны, и руководство МИДа, ну и, конечно, руководство нашего университета и студенты, собственно, к региону Юго-Восточной Азии, поскольку, я это рассказал премьер-министру, что у нас немало случаев, когда ребята в качестве третьего языка берут языки стран АСЕАН. То есть это уже такая большая дополнительная нагрузка, но они считают для себя важным и перспективным знать языки стран Юго-Восточной Азии, настраивая свою профессиональную траекторию на то, чтобы так или иначе им придется заниматься либо политической, либо общественной, либо бизнес-работой на этом направлении. И, конечно, в этом контексте исключительно важно, что у нас реализуются образовательные программы, такая оригинальная, я бы сказал, новаторская программа магистерская, которую мы реализуем при поддержке Центра АСЕАН и наших коллег-друзей из секретариата АСЕАН в Джакарте. Эта магистратура связана с изучением наших возможностей дальнейшего сотрудничества и развития этого сотрудничества со странами Юго-Восточной Азии. И в этой магистратуре учатся представители всех стран АСЕАН, равно как и представители Российской Федерации. Нас не может не радовать то, что у нас развиваются плодотворные отношения с университетом Малайзии, и мы находимся в процессе подготовки большого соглашения с университетом. Мы хотели бы, чтобы университет Малайя, который является альма-матер нашего уважаемого гостя, премьер-министра, стал базовым для нас, для работы нашего центра АСЕАН, поскольку знаем, что этот университет отличается очень высоким качеством, уровнем преподавания и научных исследований. Мы с удовольствием развиваем отношения и с Исламским университетом Малайзии, с Азиатско-Тихоокеанским университетом. Наши студенты уже не раз бывали в Малайзии, и сегодня у нас реализуется программа двойного диплома с одним из университетов. Ребята уже в этом году, по-моему, получат 2 диплома, и российский, и малазийский. То есть дело идет. Но мы сегодня говорили о том, что у нас очень большие возможности развивать эти отношения и дальше, и мы заинтересованы в том, чтобы у нас в ВУЗе было больше ребят из Малайзии, вообще заинтересованы в том, чтобы сообщество ребят из стран АСЕАН росло. Эти ребята, наши студенты, очень активные, они составляют очень важную часть нашего многонационального студенческого коллектива, да и профессорского коллектива, поскольку он тоже многонациональный, и мы имеем в ВУЗе сегодня и преподавателей из стран АСЕАН. И это все, как говорится, такой очень важный тренд, связанный с существенным расширением наших связей со странами Азии, Юго-Восточной Азии. И спасибо за то, что вы в своей программе, которая, я понимаю, очень жесткая, очень тяжелая, нашли время прибыть к нам в университет и встретиться с нашим профессорско-преподавательским составом. Ну и, конечно, должен вам сказать, что когда мы узнали, что вы будете в Москве с визитом, мы на ученом совете и узнали, что у вас будет возможность посетить наш университет, мы на ученом совете обсудили вопрос выдвижения вас в качестве почетного доктора МГИМО, который внесли наши преподаватели, члены совета, которые знают вашу деятельность, следят за этой деятельностью, специалисты по странам Азии. И наш совет единодушно принял решение голосованием о присуждении вам степени почетного доктора МГИМО. Эта степень присуждается у нас нечасто. Это, в год, может быть, 2 кандидата, которые получают это звание. Мы считаем, что это и наша оценка вашей деятельности, ну и благодарны за то, что вы приняли это наше предложение. И, как говорится, теперь каждый, кто будет приходить в университет, увидит и ваш портрет на стене почетных докторов, где много замечательных людей. Некоторых из них, вы даже, я думаю, многих из них вы знаете лично по своей государственной, политической карьере. И это тоже будет дополнительным стимулом, кстати говоря, для развития наших отношений с малазийскими университетами, центрами научными. И я поэтому с огромным удовольствием сейчас перешел бы к этой процедуре и предложил, во-первых, зачитать решение ученого совета нашего университета о присвоении звания почетного доктора достопочтенному Анвару Ибрагиму, премьер-министру Малайзии, за его вклад в укрепление мира, международного сотрудничества и за его усилия по развитию дружественных связей между народами. Сейчас попрошу коллег вручить премьер-министру мантию. Сейчас по традиции ваше слово. The floor is yours. Dear doctor, honorable doctor. А где плак-то?
Thank you, Dr. Tukadong, faculty, ministers, excellencies, and my dear students. It's a rare honor to accept this on behalf of Malaysia, who is striving hard. It's a rare honor for all Malaysians and peace-loving people of the world who believe in justice, in peace, and accept humbly. Thank you very much, Dr. Tukadong. I didn't realize you surprised me with this. But it is, of course, a rare honor. And it would be taken as a major challenge for us to live to the aspirations of this great university, and more so to embark upon a journey which is very critical for mankind. We have lost the sense of honor, dignity, human values, and respect. And it is a challenge mainly to the young to do our utmost to assimilate knowledge, imbibe the know-how, the new disciplines of digital transformation and artificial intelligence, and the need to transform our societies through energy transition. At the same time, imbibe ourselves with the strong values. The Russians talk about the Russian soul. And it is very consistent with our Madani framework. Yes, we have to affect change. We are living in unprecedented times. The pace of change is fast and unprecedented. The new technology demands us to be more creative and human beings to be more ingenious. But we should never lose our soul of dignity, of human values, and respect for one another, of different creed, different cultures and civilizations. Incidentally, I had a great meeting with President Vladimir Putin. We are here on his invitation with my colleagues, and exchanges from a very important international leader to a relatively smaller country in ASEAN. But we accorded the sense of respect, of equality in the level of comfort. And this is what needs to be promoted in the world. We don't believe in unilateral decisions and display of power and arrogance. We need to showcase that every community, every country, big or small, rich or poor, must be given the respect and recognition. I therefore take this opportunity in this great university, Magimo, to thank the President and the people of Russia for that sense of recognition and respect, and the belief that we have to work together. We can only work together if we do respect the differences, cultural, religious. And of course, incidentally, there was this joke about the throne. And Putin, in more relaxed manner, I don't see him relaxed many ways, but yesterday he was relaxed. He was asking me, he said, Pierre Manoir, you see the three thrones, three seats in that throne. Of course, I see the emperor or the Tsar is in the center. And the Tsarina probably on the right. So he said, but on the left, second wife. Then he laughed. He said, you see, you think as a Muslim, only talk about wives. I said, no. I said, I maintain I still have one wife, and I don't encourage people to have too many wives. It's tough enough to control and discipline one wife. Don't tell my wife that, please. So he said, no, on the left is the mother, Queen Mother, whatever. And then on the way to the press conference, he whispered, he said, can I tell this story? I said, what story? About the wife. But this is President Putin, whom I reflect to be very stern and serious. So I said, of course, Mr. President. I wasn't sure how he's going to tell the story. So after the initial remarks on trade, investments, artificial intelligence, energy transition, collaboration, higher education, in language, etc., he said to me, I'll say it. So then he went on to say that, and of course it's viral. And then, it's interesting enough, I had to respond, because my wife would certainly follow that. I'd be in trouble. So I responded, I said, not all Muslims share that view. Of course, it's permitted, but then I still maintain I have only one wife. And then on the way out, we were talking, and then he said, why do we take a photograph in front of the throne? So we did, the two of us with the 3 thrones, or seats. And then he said, you know something? I rarely joke in public. I said, well, that shows the human side of Putin. And I'm sure we rejoice with that. And I feel, of course, extremely glad that we have been very engaging and trusting, and feel that, you know, we can be true great friends. So I think it augurs well for the Russian Federation, Malaysia, and of course I will share this with my colleagues in ASEAN. But our discussions will relate to what Dr. Tukunov mentioned, to enhance our bilateral relations, but also to focus on the young, exchange of students, of professors, of researchers, and then to get students here and Russian students also in Malaysia. We have now close to 400 Russian students in Malaysia, but of course 700 Malaysian students here. And many of my colleagues from ASEAN countries have also sent and continue to do so. And thank you very much for having the Bahasa Malaysia or Malay language instructions here in this Megemo. And as you know, at the University of Malaya, we also have Russian language instruction. I don't follow Russian, unfortunately. But that is the I think, need for us to focus when we talk about bilateral relations. It's just not about politics and diplomacy and trade and investments. These are pivotal. Yes, countries have to ensure that their fundamentals, economic fundamentals, be strong. But human values cannot be ignored. That's why, as I've said, in all my years, from the days I was a student and the many years I spent in prison, I took a lot of time and interest in reading all the great works of Russian thinkers and literary giants. Yesterday at the Metropole Hotel, I was in the Chekhov room. And then going there, I saw the Turgenev room and Tolstoy. And for the information of Rector, I must say that we have also encouraged our translation bureau to translate some of these great works. Where else can you find a country with such culture and tradition able to produce remarkable, phenomenal work of literature, of understanding human strength, depravity, tragedy, and humanity at large? I mean, reading the works of Dostoevsky, Chekhov, Tolstoy, Pasternak, the poems of Anna Akhmatova, etc., I mean, would enrich not only the soul of Russia, but the soul of humanity, which is now terribly lacking. And this is consistent what we talked about polylogue among civilizations. How do you serve the world without any attempt to understand one another, of thinking that you represent the best and therefore tend to be condescending towards the rest? So, polylogue among civilizations is not about erasing other cultures or distinctions. It's about recognizing the strength of one another. That's why I used to say, these post-normal times, often we ignore the importance of these values, intrinsic values of humanity, of justice, of respect. Even how we look at the issues in the world today. You find, for example, utter devastation of Gaza, with hardly any effort to redeem the problems. And you can see, for example, the debate when you talk about how do you deal with Ukraine and you deal with Gaza. You see, this contradiction is unacceptable. That is why it's in my remarks, I say, how is it that 2 killed in Ukraine is a disaster and 40,000 killed in Gaza is a mistake? So this contradiction must end. I told President Putin that we look forward to this success of these negotiations taking place in Istanbul today. And we support all efforts, initiatives to resolve this amicably and peacefully. No country should be used to support design of others. We have to have the patience to deal with it. With President Putin, I even embarked on a very sensitive subject. The shooting of MH17, the Malaysian plane that caused 43 deaths of Malaysians. I mean, people would say, unless you are a true friend, you can't discuss this. And I raised this question as a true friend. I said, how do I respond to this ICAO UN report? And mind you, President Putin shows so much, a great concern of this tragedy. And told me in very clear terms, we should get the bottom of it. Any international effort to resolve this must be done professionally, scientifically. And of course, I would accept that. That is a precondition. But to my mind, for a small emerging country in economy like Malaysia, why do I get this courage to ask President Putin? Because I trust him as a friend. And his response was, to me, extremely helpful. He says, no question, it's a major tragedy. And there's no question that we will get to the bottom of it. We'll give all the cooperation possible to find out the truth behind this tragedy. Now, but of course you must have credible institutions, independent, professional institutions. And it is very complex because countries sometimes expect us to be hard and divisive. So I'm just sharing with you one episode, which is clearly a way where we can work among nations to secure ultimately through peace. And I am very fortunate that I come from a region, Malaysia, and ASEAN, the most peaceful sub-region in the world. And ASEAN, the most vibrant economically, fastest growing economy in the world. Why? There's peace in the region. We establish extremely close relationship with the leaders. Any issue, say Myanmar, we say, well, we have to find consensus. When I decided to go to Bangkok to meet the military junta and the opposition prime minister, the 2 prime ministers in the same country, I consulted all leaders of ASEAN. Can I do that? Because there was a terrible earthquake, that they need to have a ceasefire, that we need to have humanitarian efforts. And without exception, all of them, Singapore, Philippines, Brunei, Indonesia, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, all said, please proceed. And after that, I immediately called them to tell them about the level of success and engagement that we have. So I'm not saying that this is due to one country or Malaysia, no, but because of this trust and comradeship and engagement between the leaders of ASEAN. And I'm very fortunate to be given that trust to coordinate the efforts. So, you remember in Fathers and Sons by Turgenev. We sit in the mud, my friend, and reach the stars. Quote. This captures the human condition, grounded in struggle. We sit in the mud, yet reaching with ideals something higher. This is the brutal reality of the world. But also, more importantly, an enduring promise. And because we're living in so much tensions and distrust, despite the so-called initial post-war, post-Cold War, initial security understandings, we still have a problem. Now let us take the great Dostoevsky in Crime and Punishment. Yeah, I'm testing the Russians. All is in a man's hands, and he lets it all slip from cowardice. That's an axiom. It would be interesting to know what it is men are most afraid of. Taking a new step, uttering a new word. A new word is what they fear most. So do not fear innovation, creativity, and the preparedness to state what is right, what is just, what is honorable. Now, I state this because we are in a geopolitical flux that casts a shadow not only on security issues, but on trade and economic cooperation. You know, there is rise. Can you imagine in 2025, after all the GATT and WTO and multilateral arrangements, now we have the rise of protectionism, arbitrary imposition on tariffs, unilateral sanctions, and economic decoupling that threatens the entire system that the world has somewhat agreed upon. So, for a trading nation like Malaysia and my colleagues in ASEAN, this is nothing short from existential threat. We are a trading nation. We have become one of the hub for semiconductor production chips in the region. And of course, there's a production, both at the initially the back end now, advanced design, advanced packaging, and suddenly we are threatened with this. So that's why we must continue to promote this sort of understanding. For what? For world order, for understanding, for peace, for collaboration, for open trade. That's essentially why you have an international institution like this. Why Rector Turgenev, I think this morning alone, told me about at least 6 times about the need to enhance cooperation and collaboration. After this speech, he will say for the 7th time. But he is saying something which is appropriate and pertinent, that the days of protectionism must be over. So it must be a rule-based world order. So I represent my colleagues in ASEAN fostering this issue. That's why we support CPTPP, RCEP, and now with Russian support. Mind you, the country that proposed Malaysia's entry as a partner in BRICS was Russian Federation. It was President Putin that proposed in last year's meeting, and of course supported by China, India, Ethiopia. We are very fortunate. So that's where BRICS stand for, and I think we in Malaysia look forward to opening up trade and market from traditional partners. Now, notwithstanding what I've said, please remember that the United States is the largest investor into Malaysia and our largest trading partner. But that doesn't stop us from stating what we believe is right and honorable. Now, Alexander Solzhenitsyn reminds us the line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being. This reflects a universal truth. The struggle between our better and worst angels is not between nations, but within each of us. It is the humility that allows us to pursue his interests. As I must reiterate that personal sense and feeling of satisfaction when meeting hours yesterday with President Putin, this leader of this large, great country, would engage with a relatively much smaller country and economy with the same human recognition, equality, and collaboration. This, to my mind, is a remarkable feat, and I wish these two countries, together with ASEAN, well. But we must not be tempted by despair. History, many of you students learn history, economic history, political history. They are not moved by perfection. It is shaped by perseverance and resilience. Leadership is the work of patient conviction, to struggle forward when the path is uncertain, to act with courage when clarity is elusive, and to hold fast to hope when it feels most fragile. That is the task before us. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, dear Prime Minister, for your excellent, emotional, and inspiring speech. Thank you very much. And we all admire your knowledge of the Russian literature. Now we have some time, not too much, for Q&A session. So, questions from the audience.
Your Excellency, thank you very much for your lecture. My question is as follows. I'm Farid Mirsida from School of International Relations at MGIMO University. Well, Malaysia is chairing ASEAN this year, and my question is as follows. In an era of political turbulence and economic uncertainty, how can ASEAN foster unity among its member states to effectively bridge the world and create a cohesive regional response to global challenges?
Who told you to ask such difficult questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now, ASEAN takes a common position on most issues. Of course, there are different countries, different emphases and bias, but generally, for example, say the most contentious or more difficult conflict that we are facing, issue that we are facing say Myanmar. The consensus is okay. Do whatever it takes, engage however, but remain the 5 principles. We call it 5-point consensus. And that's why in my engagement, when I say I'm to talk, they know that I will toe the parameters agreed upon. Now on tariff, we have these bilateral discussions. All countries in ASEAN are in having bilateral engagement with the United States. But all of them asked, if possible, for Malaysia as President Chair to at least present the ASEAN case. It's 650 million people, $3 trillion. It's not small when we see as one regional bloc. So we have both bilateral, but also the understanding that, we also speak up for ASEAN. Now let us talk about, say many contentious issues, say issue of Gaza. Of course, there's different levels and degree, but no one wants this to continue. All wants a ceasefire. All says you have to respect human dignity. Some may pronounce that you recognize Palestinian state. Some may take some time, but no country in ASEAN has condoned these indiscriminate killings and colonialism of Gaza. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, thank you for, first of all, thank you for an amazing speech. My name is Maria Migushina, and I'm the student of International Economic Relations Department here. And I would really like to know your opinion on how do advancements in digital technology and the growing importance of cybersecurity serve as tools for Malaysia and Southeast Asian nations to connect and collaborate more effectively, thereby contributing to a harmonious and a great regional framework in a fractured global landscape. Do you see any role for Russia in this regard?
Thank you. Now, in the first priority of ASEAN this year, the consensus was sustainability and inclusivity. Then we have the thrust of our programs. One, we call it energy transition, which is critical. And we have now understanding to have this collaborative effort of ASEAN power grid. Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand into Malaysia, which is part of Malaysia, and then Singapore. And then we have Sarawak, Sabah, Indonesia, the Philippines. So there's, not many regional, I should say, establishment would set up or that of agenda which benefit all countries. The second is, of course, digital transformation, connectivity in all these countries. And our focus is, of course, there should not be this divide, because inequality is a big problem. Why we question this unbridled capitalism is because you allow for this gross inequality and disparity from the very, very, very rich to the very, very poor. Now, if through digitalization it promotes that sort of, or condones or allows for that inequality, is a problem. Not only between intra-nations, but also inter. So we have to deal with it. Now, the next challenge, which is really serious, as you mentioned, is cybersecurity. And this would need collaboration. We have had meetings. There has been clear understanding earlier in Vientiane, before that in Jakarta, and in this year's meeting in Kuala Lumpur, and this will also be the focus. Now, we cannot combat cybersecurity as part of regional understanding. It has been collaboration with the United States, with EU, with Russia, with China, for example. So I think we will continue. But cybersecurity, cyber attack is a major threat to peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Saya akan memperkenalkan diri. Nama saya Kira Tabunova. Saya adalah seorang pakar di Pusat ASEAN dan juga sejak tahun akademik ini saya juga mengajar bahasa Melayu. Okay. Ya, saya ingin mengucapkan beribu-ribu terima kasih kepada Yang Amat Berhormat Dato Seri Anwar Ibrahim atas ucapan yang cemerlang itu. Dan kalau Dato Seri Anwar Ibrahim boleh dinamakan sebagai peminat sastra Rusia dan juga falsafah Rusia, ialah soal yang saya akan disuarakan. Pada pendapat Dato Seri Anwar Ibrahim, apakah yang kesusastraan Rusia mampu menerangkan tentang jiwa dan identiti Rusia, dan apakah persamaan antara watak kebangsaan dan juga identiti Rusia dan Malaysia? Sekarang saya akan menerjemahkan ke dalam bahasa Inggris. Your Excellency, so my question is you're known as, you're very famous for your genuine interest in Russian literature and Russian philosophy. And to your perspective, Your Excellency, what does Russian literature explain about Russian soul and Russian identity? Maybe do you see any similarities between Russian and Malaysian national characters and also identities? Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. I think she's testing my own knowledge of, of Russian literature. You know, great literary works, irrespective whether they're Russian or Shakespeare English or Italian works, some touch the human heart and expression. What is a good literature? Is expression of human feelings and then translated, crafted into beautiful language which touch the hearts of men and women. When I read, for example, War and Peace, I don't reflect that, of course it's a Russian story, Russian background, but it is humanity. Two Idiots, for example, or, I mean, all the great works, Dr. Zhivago. Well, Dr. Zhivago is of course Russian, but the humanity is in place. The tragedy, the work, and love, of course, and sometimes the penchant for arrogance and war. I mean, all this is expression of humanity. And I think really, despite the fact that we are going for these great works of literature, for science and technology and engineering, which is critical for our survival as a country and humanity, this humanity cannot be replaced unless you go back to these great works of art and literature. Now, I read Shakespeare. Shakespeare, I still believe, as a genius, is still a pillar of the Western canon. I don't get, for example, a feeling of contradiction, although you know Tolstoy does not like Shakespeare's works. You see? But it's okay. These are, I mean, expression of their views. But we, I mean, I think Tolstoy is a great contribution, not only to the Russian soul, but to the humanity at large. I mean, that's how I see it. I mean, it can be Chinese, it can be Arabic, it can be Indian. So I see in that context, how do they contribute? I mean, I would challenge anyone who says no, read. The problem is that, oh, it's Russian. Maybe communist is dangerous. I mean, then you're completely ignorant, completely, dismissive, without even attempting to understand and appreciate. I don't share that view. Any great work, and I think it will be a major contribution. You know, it touches the heart. Well, many of my colleagues say, oh, Anwar is different because you read when you were in prison. So all tragedy, sad. No, not necessarily. It touches the heart. Whether you are in prison or not, the failure of politics, of deficit of trust, of corruption, of human failures and failings, arrogance of power, condescending towards others, all because we have lost that soul, the sense of what is right and what is truth. So I think that is the answer. That's why in Malaysia, for example, I know my colleague in Indonesia, some of the great works of the Russian novelists has been translated. We have been doing it. And it doesn't matter. I'm going to Kazan this evening, and tomorrow I'll be speaking. Of course, I'll be talking about Haji Murad of Tolstoy. And you know, great. Okay, thank you.
Terima kasih.
Премьер-министр даже знает, что Толстой не любил Шекспира. Слушайте. У нас не все об этом знают. Пожалуйста.
Selamat pagi, Datak Seri Anwar Ibrahim. Selamat datang ke Moskow. Terima kasih untuk waktu Anda. I'm going to switch straight away to English as I'm not as fluent as Kira in Malayu, as I started learning this language only in September, so I'm one of those lucky ones.
That's great progress.
Terima kasih banyak. Terima kasih banyak-banyak. Yeah.
September this year.
Yeah, September this year. I'm learning both.
December last year. That means it's a matter of a few months.
Yeah, not like, yeah, but 6 months or something. Yeah.
Good.
But we have
You try me in Russian, 6 months.
But we have very good professors here in GIMO. They're the best ones.
Thank you, thank you.
They're also present here. So, my name is Denis Zhuchkov. I'm the student of the first year of the master's program, Russia-ASEAN Strategic Partnership. And my question is as follows. So, at the Eastern Economic Forum, at the plenary session, you were asked a question regarding BRICS, namely how Malaysia sees its participation in the organization. And after the BRICS Forum held in Kazan, in which I have also participated thanks to the Volunteer Center of GIMO, as the volunteer of the Protocol Service. So after Malaysia and other countries representing the Global South have joined BRICS as partners, I want to know, has your perception of the organization changed? If so, in what way? And also, what does Malaysia expect from cooperation with BRICS? Thank you very much for coming. Sekali lagi, terima kasih banyak-banyak.
Terima kasih. In Malay, thank you is terima kasih. And it goes deeper than thank you. Terima kasih is I receive with love. Like from Russia with love. All right. So this is deeper meaning, but from the heart. And you see, you know, receive with some feeling of love. Now, BRICS, of course, is a major contribution because we are a trading nation. We have to explore new markets. I mean, Brazil is a great friend. I mean, they're very committed. China, and now Russian Federation, South Africa, and we are giving the focus. In the past, yes, as I said, United States is a major contributor in terms of investments and trade. And then EU, European Union, Russia, in our discussions yesterday, we have to push that ahead. That's why I mentioned that we have some difficulty because sanctions, etc., etc. And but we are opening ways. And I said, you know, we welcome the Russian airlines, including Aeroflot, to fly in as soon as possible, so that we can get the Rector Tukunov, who has not gone to Malaysia, to fly immediately. And I think we will arrange, we'll speak to Aeroflot, the premier flight from Moscow to Kuala Lumpur, he will be in it.
Ready.
So we're opening new markets. Now, what have happened? For example, say with Egypt. Since a year, 1.5 years, the increase of in trade has been 34%. You see? We didn't explore this. Now with Russia, with the strength in energy, in digital, in petrochemical, I mean, so many. But then there were so many issues raised because of the sanctions. Now we have to overcome that. Of course, if it is multilateral sanctions imposed by the United Nations, we have to, you know, naturally respect that. But some are unilateral sanctions. But I think we are not involved in terrorism or, causing any enmity towards anyone. So we want to work to benefit our people, So there's going to be a BRICS meeting in Rio de Janeiro soon, and I will, of course, attend to give the support. Terima kasih.
Very perfect. Thanks so much.
Thank you a lot for coming. I'm a first-year student of the School of International Economic Relations here. My name is Valeria Hainina. Your Excellency, you're going to visit a Kazan forum on Russia and the Islamic world. In your opinion, what role can play our Muslim communities in strengthening Russia-Malaysia relations further? Thank you.
Thank you. No, Russia is a vast country, and also have a big number Muslim population. And I've seen, for example, the support of, is more inclusive in terms of the attitude of the government. Mosques have been built. People, you tolerate all religious activities of various communities and religious denominations. And I think that's a good sign. And in fact, encouraging this Kazan Islamic Economic Forum. That's why I choose to attend, because there's also huge potential. On Islamic finance, halal is the trillions of dollars. It's not small. So other than following some Islamic precepts, it also allows for vibrant economic activity. And that's why I think the Kazan Forum is important. Terima kasih.
Thank you.
Selamat pagi, greetings and здравствуйте to Dato Seri Anwar Ibrahim, my Prime Minister. My name is Adam bin Amri, and I'm also a master's student here. I'm a master's student here in the Russia-ASEAN Strategic Partnership. My question for you today is, in light of the competing contradictions of influences in major powers such as China and the United States, how can ASEAN in itself navigate its diplomatic strategies to maintain autonomy while also forging connections that will support its member countries' aspirations to connect themselves with the global community market amidst this fragmentation? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, we have been sometimes persuaded or pressed to initially take sides. But ASEAN as a whole adopts a policy what is called centrality. We trade with all, we should be friends with all. We are, small nations combined together, although it becomes big, $3 trillion, as I said, and 650 million people. But still, we should show humility to say that we engage. There are problems we discuss. But they say, no, but China is a potential threat. I say, threat to whom? Not to us. Then they say, but the South China Sea is still problematic. I don't deny. Do you have problems with borders with China? Yes. Malaysia is a maritime country. And we have issues with all countries, with Thailand, some parts of the border, with Indonesia, with Brunei, in Singapore, with Philippines, with Vietnam. But we don't go to war. We are best of friends. If I feel I call Prime Minister Phan of Vietnam, I just call. With Lawrence, I was glad he won landslide victory. I mean, we negotiate, we discuss. We can resolve. With Thailand, with some issues we can't resolve. We have Joint Development Authority for oil exploration together. So why is it when it comes to China, we take a different position? So that is the position. Of course, there's a different engagements. For example, the Philippines have some sort of complex relationship, but still, as a whole, we say, okay, we should, exercise restraint and engage in the dialogue. The different levels of, partnership. But as a whole, it's centrality, and it is important. At the end of this month, ASEAN will have a special conference with Gulf countries, the 6, and China for economic summit. Oh, they say, but you are biased now to China. It's not true. Because early this year, I wrote to President Donald J. Trump on behalf of ASEAN. I said, we want this United States-ASEAN meeting to go ahead. So it is very smart, you know. You write to Trump, can we meet, ASEAN, United States? Then you go to China, can we have a session? And I'm here in Russia, we are great friends. That is what I think geopolitical relations is all about. Okay? Terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
Or as the Filipinos say, maraming salamat po.
Ya, selamat pagi, Bapak Ibrahim, yang saya hormati. Terima kasih atas kedatangan Anda ke universitas kami. Pertama-tama, saya harus minta maaf karena saya akan bertanya dalam bahasa Indonesia, bukan dalam bahasa Belanda, karena ini adalah bidang spesialisasi saya. Oke, terima kasih banyak sekali lagi. Pengarang atau sastra Melayu apa yang bisa sangat menarik dan berminat bagi orang Rusia, yaitu bagi mahasiswa yang belajar bahasa baik Indonesia maupun Melayu di universitas kami, karena tentu saja Anda tahu sangat banyak tentang kesusastraan baik Rusia maupun Indonesia atau Melayu. Terima kasih banyak.
Yeah. Terima kasih. The question is, very good bahasa, I tell you. First class, congratulations. And the question relates to the great works of literature in the region, particularly in Malay, Indonesian languages. What particular novel or work that I support? You know, there's a lot of confusion because people think that I'm a graduate of literature. Because I graduate from the Faculty of Arts. Faculty of Arts is translated Sastra, literature. So they think that, no, I did not. I am not a graduate literature. My special field of specialization is sociology. But my interest and love is, of course, literature and philosophy. And I think because too much philosophy, that's why I got into prison. Now, what great works? Well, it depends. If the classics is something else, but I think in terms of contemporary or what is termed as modern literature, I think poem of Anwar, Tongkat Warren or Usman Awang in Malaysia, or Taufik Ismail in Indonesia, or Muhammad Haji Saleh in Malaysia. Novels, if you think about the great works in Indonesia in the 50s, will be, of course, Salah Asuhan. I mean, you're familiar with this, as one of those. Or the works of Hamka, Tenggelamnya Kapal Van de Beek. Malaysia do not, of course, produce as great in the 50s. Poems, some great poems, but novels not as penetrating, perceptive, and powerful. Some of the Indonesian novels. So, do I pass the test?
Ya, tentu saja. Terima kasih banyak.
Thank you.
Dear Prime Minister, I just want to admit again how much we appreciate your visit to our university, and for us it was, and it is a great pleasure to listen to you and to know you better than we knew before. Thank you very much again. Thank you. And I want to present this plaque to you. This is the plaque of the Honorable Doctor. And let's listen to the Gaudiamus. It's our tradition during such ceremony. Do we have Gaudiamus there? No, we don't have. Okay.